Welcome back, guys. It's craft time. In today's video, I'm going to take you with me as I learn to do my first breadboards from scratch. Let's go ahead and get started. Let me start with giving a big shout out to Julie from Julie's Design and Signs. Her YouTube channel is where I've learned this. She's very talented and she has a video where she takes you step by step on the process and how to do it. So I thought that I would give it a try because they're so cute and my boyfriend happens to have a bunch of old wood that just needs my love. So I stole this from him. I got the boards that I needed to get started. I'm going to go ahead and walk you through. To begin, you just need whatever size piece of wood that you plan to use. The great thing about this is that you can make them as big or as small as you want. I'm going to be making 3 different sizes today. So I'm going to begin with kind of just wiping off. These boards that I'm using are really dirty, so I just kind of wiped them off a little bit, and then there was one that I needed to cut one part of it off because it was just too far gone to save, and then go ahead to be able to create my handle. To do this, you want to pick the end that you want as the handle and what part you want at the end. I wanted my ends to be rough and grimy and just like look super old so that they look aged. So I picked the side that was the roughest to be the side that's the bottom, and then the other side to be my handle. What you want to do is just measure across to find your middle, mark the part that's in the middle, and then draw one side of your handle. After you've drawn that one side of your handle, you want to go ahead and just use your jigsaw to cut it out. Just be very careful with this process. Don't do what I'm doing. Probably be more secure. I just didn't want to dirty up our garage that we spent so hard cleaning up, so I took everything outside, and this is the best setup that I currently had. So I just cut off the one side all the way down, nice and slow, took my time. And then once that's done, you can just take that piece, flip it over, and then use that as a template so that you can trace it. You can also just make a template out of a piece of paper and trace both sides, but what I've learned from watching her videos is if you want them to be more exact, then if you just cut half of it and you flip it over, it's going to give you an exact replica of what the other side is, because you may go off the line a little bit or whatever. So it just helps to keep it a little more symmetrical, but remember, you want this to look handmade, so it's okay if it's not perfection. That's actually not what you want in this case. After I was finished with that, I got my sander out and I just kind of, with a very, very rough sandpaper, went over the entire surface and then on the edges. So when I was sanding over the surface, I didn't want to take away any of the nicks and cracks or natural age of the wood. I just wanted to take away that dirt and grime that's built up over it over the years. So I did that on the surface, and then for the edges, there is a very harsh cut line. So for that, I just kind of ran it over to get rid of that really sharp pointy line, and then on the sides as well. Now, in Julie's video, she has a hand grinder that she uses with really large metal teeth that she just beats it up to make it give it a really like handmade chisel to it. Though we do have a hand grinder, I don't even know if we have that same tool. I've never used it and I'm not comfortable, so I just skipped that part and left my edges pretty smooth. I knew that I'd be able to blend them in and make them look good once we got to the painting portion, so I just left it as is. If you wanted to beat up your board, so say you don't have any old wood laying around and you use new wood, just get a hammer or even like one of those like meat things, what is it called? Meat tenderizers, that's it. Use that, hit the board a little bit, get some dinks in it, use a knife, cut it up a little bit, add some character to it. And you can also do that like with a hammer and stuff on the edges to beat it up a little bit if you want a little rougher look. Again, I skipped that step, so I didn't worry about it, but I did take my sander over each one, and I did get those edges nice. Just get the dirt and grime off without taking away all of the character that's built into these pieces of wood. I did do 3. I know I only show 2 of them that I'm cutting. The third one, I remembered that he had this piece of wood that he said he wasn't sure he'd ever be able to find a use for it because the back of it was black. And I don't know if it was burnt on. I don't know what it is that's on this piece of wood, but it's not something that he would be able to use again. And I knew I could make a smaller one, so I grabbed that piece of wood and I also used that. And for that one, I went all around the edges too because I wanted it to be black, but I wanted to distress it down to have that pretty brown, reddish color of the wood come through. So moving on from that, after you've sanded it, I just wiped all of the dust and blew all of the dust off of it dry, and then I also wiped it down with a wet, I used a baby wipe, which was a mistake. Don't do that. Use a wet rag. The baby wipe did leave little fuzzies behind. I use them for everything, so I just grabbed it not thinking, and I should have definitely used a wet rag or something that wasn't going to leave any fibers behind. After that, I was ready to finish up my pieces of wood. So what I did was use my Waverly wax antique, and I watered it down. So I did, for the first board, I did half and half. So half Waverly wax and half water to keep it that darker, really rich color. For the second board, I did 1 part Waverly wax, 2 parts water because I didn't want it to be near as dark. I knew it would probably soak into this wood a little bit better. So I wanted to have it a little more watery and not as dark of a brown. And I think it looks beautiful. It just looks really aged, really nice. I'm very happy with it. And then with the third one, this piece of wood's old and it's starting to kind of fall apart. It has like all this like character and just stuff going on with it. And then it did have some like other marks on it. There's like yellow marks on it from probably somebody painting on it or something when they were just using it as the base of something. It just looks like the outline of something being painted. I sanded that off a little bit, but I didn't want to sand too far to make those spots stand out because they look so fresh and new. So I decided I wanted to do a white wax on that. Not white wax, sorry, a whitewash on that part. I used my white chalk paint and I watered it down. I did half and half for that to make it a really watery mixture, and I painted it on, and then I let it kind of soak in, and then I wiped. And I did that with all 3 pieces. I painted on whatever, either the wax or the chalk paint, painted it all on, let it sit and kind of absorb for a couple minutes, and then I wiped off any excess that was there because I was definitely okay with like the whitewash letting some of that brown come through. And then with the antique wax, it really absorbed into the board, so the board was going to keep that color brown. I was just cleaning up the excess to help it dry and do really good. So with this, I did the surface, I did all around the edges, and then once it was dry enough, I flipped it over and I did the back side. I wanted it to all completely look cohesive, so I did the front and back. And also that way whoever purchases this, can choose which side they like best, and they can use that side to present. Once that was done, I did not film this part, but you know I used my Rust-Oleum clear coat. So I used the Rust-Oleum 2X clear matte, and I gave both sides a really good seal. This may not be necessary, but this is old wood, so I just wanted to make sure that like I sealed in the entire piece, and to make sure like with the whitewash that none of that chalk paint's gonna wash off. It just gives me a peace of mind to seal my pieces. That way I know that, you know, the wax isn't gonna, if there's any extra wax on it, it's gonna get on people's fingers or anything like that. I like to know that it's in place, it's gonna stay, and I don't have to worry about people beating and banging on it at all. Though these are decor pieces, so that should not be happening. To finish these pieces off, I'm just gonna use some twine and some Floral and Greenery. For the small black one, I just definitely pictured a big pop of white. So I just used some brown twine or jute to wrap it around, and I attached the flower, and then I left some little long strands of that on there so that it just gave it a little character and added a little more. For the second one, the big brown one, I just wanted some plain greenery. So I had some eucalyptus garland that I had from a different project. So I just snipped part of that off and I wrapped that around with some thicker rope that I had from another project. I just thought the bigger rope on the bigger board would look really good. And then on the white one, I just wanted a little pop of color. So I have all kinds of florals, but I wanted just a small, just like, hey, I'm here, pop of color. So I did the greenery, the same, the eucalyptus, and then I have these like orangish reddy, like just little flowers that I added with that, and I did the white and the brown jute. So I wrapped that around, tied it up to make sure it was secure. I did add a little bit of floral wire to make sure the greenery and those florals stay together and don't fall off. But I love how these turned out. I think they are super, super cute. I'm just gonna go ahead and show you. My first one is the smallest one. This is the black one with the little pop of white flower. I love it. So you can see I left the bottom just all kind of beat up. Sorry. Always have stuff on my tables and stuff. So this is what it, and if somebody doesn't like the black, which I love this black side, I took my sander and kind of beat up the front here so that you would get those little pops of brown through this black. But this is what the back looks like, and I think this is a really cute like type of character because it's also black on here. Like I said, it's not paint. I think it was burnt wood. And it's gorgeous. I absolutely love it. So I think it looks super cute with the twine and then that pop of white flower. The next one, which this one, I love this shape. I saw this board out there and I knew I wanted a wider one. So you can see it's not even at all. It just has a really handmade, homemade feel to it. It's got this little pop of greenery and the pop of color from the florals. Here's the back side, which is still pretty dinked up and stuff, but I loved this side because it has these like the little holes where you can tell nails were there and stuff. So yeah, the best thing is you can make the handle shapes anything that you want. I knew I wanted this one to be a wide bottomed mama, so I kept that one. And then with the bigger one, I wanted her to be a chonky girl. So that's why I made this handle like oversized. I know it's like, I can use two hands to do it, but I love the way it looks. I think this one is so pretty. I love how aged this wood is. So the bottom, it's all kind of like beat up and just old and aged and kind of just so much character to this one. I love the color. She's pretty thick. Here's the back in case they wanted to turn it around. They like that side better. But yeah, that's all three of them. I love them. If you guys give it a try, definitely let me know. Go see my my crafting page, Crafting with Candace on Facebook, and send me guys pictures. I would love to see what you guys come up with, how you painted them or stained them or whatever you chose to do. I loved this project. Again, I wish I could say this was my idea, but I got it from Julie. She has inspired me on several of my crafts. She's very talented, so go check her out as well. I will take you guys in for a closer look, and before we see you next time, go ahead and give me a like and subscribe if you're new. If you're returning, as always, thank you. I'm so happy and grateful for you. All right, I'll see you next time.